Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Professor Ganesh Somayaji, teaching sociology at Goa University, Goa. I am going to speak to you on Karl Marx and the theory of education. From the title itself, it must have become clear to you that we are discussing Marx's influence on the theory of education and not Marxist theory of education. Emile Durkheim gave a theory of education, but Marx and other classical sociologists did not give direct theories of education. Their general sociological and social scientific ideas were influential in developing the theory of education. As you know, Karl Marx is a theorist of society. He was a social, economic and political philosopher. For him, education is one institution of capitalistic society which contributed to perpetuation of inequality in society. In order to understand Marx's influence on education, we have to see the salient features of Marxism in sociology and social theory. Karl Marx's thesis on society is based on his idea that the history of all hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. Marx viewed society as moving from one stage to another stage, from primitive communism to slavery to capitalism to communist society and socialist society. In all these successive stages, there was class struggle, and Marx's ideas on education was only to see education as a perpetuator of inequality in all these stages. To know, we have to first understand the salient contributions of Marx to sociological theory. Let us look into the salient components of Marxian social theory. Karl Marx's social theory saw society as moving from one historical stage to another on account of class struggle. This class struggle was a reflection of disproportionate access of different classes to the material base of society. Thus, Marx's theory, though economic in nature, has social, political and cultural implications. He felt that social theory should be grounded in the existence of living human beings who must survive in a relatively hostile environment. A social scientist and revolutionary, Marx was of the opinion that social theorists should give attention to the material conditions that influence the life of people. Marx's materialist orientation is seen by many to be in direct opposition to Hegel's idealism. Marx himself attacks the young Hegelians in the German ideology and accuses them of theoretical bubble blowing. Marx believed that for young Hegelians, great revolutions only take place in thought because no buildings are destroyed and no one is injured or dies. In fact, Marx's understanding of the nature of society developed in response to what he saw as an idealistic humbug of the young Hegelians. But Marx's critique of the young Hegelians should not be seen as an outright rejection of the ideas of Hegel. He had a lifelong fascination with Hegel and kept returning to him, strengthening his points of differences as well as his agreement with the dead philosopher. One of the most influential thinkers of the 19th century, Hegel proposed the notion of philosophical idealism. To put it simply, philosophical idealism is the view that matter does not exist in its own right, that in fact it is a product of mind. The world which is filled with objects is ultimately a mental construction. It is only through an examination of abstract philosophical categories that we can have a thorough understanding of human existence. Marx questioned the role that Hegel's philosophy played in understanding human existence. As the focus of philosophical idealism was an abstract process and not on concrete reality, Marx felt that it led to a distortion that overlooked the more real and practical problems that humans faced. Marx believed that only when the physical needs of humans were met, they could focus on intellectual needs. These material needs are satisfied by direct productive activity. This line of thinking led to the formulation of the materialistic perspective. Though Marx's materialism is diametrically opposite to Hegel's idealism, his materialistic conception of history strongly rests on the Hegel's claim that history occurs through dialectic or a clash of opposing forces. But Marx claimed that his dialectic method is opposite to Hegel's dialectic. Whereas Hegel had believed that the principles of development found in concepts such as contradiction, opposition, and affirmation and negation were represented by ideas acting in history, Marx took the view that the central principles of change were manifested at the level of class formations and in the concrete historical development of economic production in society. Marx's analysis of history is based on his distinction between the means of production, literally those things like land and natural resources and technology that are necessary for the production of material goods, and the social relations of production, in other words, the social relations people enter into as they acquire and use the means of production. Together, these comprise the mode of production. Marx observed that within any given society, the mode of production changes. This change in the mode of production often a result of conflict between the forces of production and relations of production leads to a new historical stage in society. Marx emphasized that the history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggle. In every society, there were always opposing interests between those who owned the means of production and those who did not. This conflict between the oppressor and the oppressed was present in every stage of history except the first. In the stage of primitive communism, there was no private property, no classes, and hence no exploitation on the basis of class. In course of time, however, slavery, the first system of exploitation, emerged, when ownership of one human being determined rank and position. Slavery was followed by feudalism, wherein the two classes, landowners and landless serfs, represented opposing interests. Feudalism gave way to capitalism, in which capitalists hired proletariat only if they generate profits. Marx believed that capitalism would grow like a giant octopus, spreading its tentacles over the entire globe until nearly every human activity became debased because it was a commodity subject to purchase. Marx opined that the contradictions inherent in capitalism, the tremendous sense of alienation it produced among the workers, would lead to its collapse. This would bring about a transitory pace of socialism which was characterized by the dictatorship of the proletariat. Eventually, Marx predicted that communism would emerge, wherein there would be a classless society in which all would give according to their ability and take according to their need. In order for this utopian society to emerge, what was needed was a revolution that would hasten the collapse of capitalism. Marx's praxis was hence geared towards initiating and contributing to this revolution. For revolution to occur, the status quo had to be changed. The capitalists, being small in number, were a class for themselves, which meant that they were aware of their common interests. This awareness made them cooperate with each other in facilitating the exploitation of the workers. The workers, on the other hand, though living under common conditions, perhaps due to their large numbers, do not recognize their common interests. They remain a class in themselves. For revolution to take place, there must be the development of awareness among the workers of their common interests. They must move from being a class in themselves to a class for themselves. Marx predicted that this change in class consciousness would arise on account of two reasons. As they are cramped into factories, the physical proximity to each other makes them discuss and recognize their common interests. Secondly, some members of the bourgeois would break away and join the proletariat, thus hasten the inevitable revolution. The outcome of the revolution would be a communism which will come to be a fruition of the dialectical process that began at the end of the first stage of history. While promulgating their thesis on the exploitative capitalistic system and its eventual demise, Marx and Engels commented on the working of social institutions in modern societies. This unit is devoted to examine Marxist views on education. Marxian perspectives on education will be discussed by us now. While discussing the Marxian perspectives on education, in the beginning, two observations are worth noting. The non-explicit attention given by Marx and Engels to education, and also their recognition of education in fostering class consciousness among the workers. Consequently, the study of Marx with reference to education can have two main components. One, a description of direct references to education by Marx and Engels in some works, and two, an examination of the Marxist and neo-Marxist positions on education. The first component aims at showing the way in which Marx and Engels looked at the institution of education within their general interpretation of capitalist society and their aim of bringing about socialist transformation of society. Among the various works, we will consider Engels, The Condition of the Working Class in England, written in the year 1845 first. We will then briefly cover a few other works of Marx and Engels. Engels wrote on the abysmal living conditions and disorganized life of the workers of his time. The children of the working class were drawn to various temptations which, according to him, were due to the neglect of their education. The education arranged for the children was the education which the bourgeois thought was required for the children of the working class. Moreover, the bourgeois did not want educated workers. With regard to the pathetic school system and education available to the children of the workers, Engels concludes, it can be otherwise. The bourgeois has little to hope and much to fear from the education of the working class. The references Marx and Engels make to education in the manifesto of the Communist Party give us clues to grasp their idea on the role of education in the future classless society. Waugh identifies three explicit references to education in the manifesto. The first is when the rise of the bourgeois was discussed. When the bourgeois was constantly fighting with various categories of classes, such as aristocrats and bourgeois from the other countries, they sought the help of the proletariat by providing the necessary education to them regarding the usefulness of industrial capitalism and the factory system. Through education, the bourgeois furnishes the weapons to fight for their cause. The industrial bourgeois attempts to construct a group of educated adults among the proletariat. The second direct reference to education in the manifesto is made when Marx and Engels address the charges made against communism by the spokespersons of the ruling class. Quote, "But you will say, we destroy the most hallowed of relations when we replace home education by social. And your education, is it not that also social and determined by the social conditions under which you educate, by the intervention, direct or indirect, of the society by means of schools, etc.? The communists have not invented the intervention of society in education. They do but seek to alter the character of that intervention and to rescue education from the influence of the ruling class." Unquote. In the context of abundant instances of child labor and control of formal education by the bourgeois, the manifesto's agenda for educational reformation in the form of communist society states the Marxian perspective on schooling. The third explicit reference to education is made while charting out the public programs of action, and these are 10 in numbers, in the future communist state. Marx and Engels opine that The specific programs of action in a communist state will differ from one country to the other. Still, they suggest 10 such general programs of action. Among them, the 10th program of action is about education. Quote, free education for all children in public schools. Abolition of children's factory labor in its present form. Combination of education with industrial production, etc. Unquote. In several of their works, Marx and Engels argue for expanded public education for the working class. They saw themselves as providing education and theoretical guidance to the working class and socialist movement. Marx and Engels did not write much on educational institutions in bourgeois society or develop models of education in socialist societies. Yet, their historical materialist theory of history has been used to theorize and critique educational institutions within bourgeois society and to develop alternative conceptions of education that are in accord with Marxian socialist principles. For example, Samuel Bowles and Herbert Gintes, in their various works since 1976, have dealt with schooling in capitalist America in a critical perspective. Several new dimensions have been added to the Marxian theory of education in the later part of the 20th century. Saha, in his reference Handbook on the Sociology of Education, while commenting on the conflict-oriented perspectives on education, mentions two main Marxist-inspired perspectives. One is neo-Marxist approach and the critical theory of the Frankfurt School. Many writers within this perspective have proposed their own versions of how education is controlled by the elite and how it helps to maintain elite status. Some examples of these writers and their works are Carnot's Education as Cultural Imperialism, Appel's Ideology and Curriculum, Giroux's Ideology, Culture and the Process of Schooling, and Bourdieu and Passeron's Reproduction in Education, Society and Culture. Describing further, Saha mentions the critical theory of Frankfurt School as yet another version of Marxian approach to education. It must be noted here that in the critical theory of the Frankfurt School, we get a critique of various institutional arrangements and cultural patterns. Education is one among them. Critical theorists typified social life under capitalism with concepts such as the totally administered society, one-dimensional man, and communicative competence. This perspective applies to education and other social institutions. Critical theorists strive to both study and emancipate society from capitalist oppression. They seek to unmask the intrusion of this form of capitalism over social life and therefore emancipate individuals from their false beliefs. In education, critical theory is relevant to the critical study of the curriculum and the hidden curriculum, educational administration, and teacher education. Another dimension of Marxian perspective on education is its practice in the erstwhile communist state of the USSR and the present communist state of People's Republic of China. In both these nation states, education has become a means to usher in and sustain a classless society. In both these states, education has been funded by the government. In such educational practices, education is viewed in universal terms and not particularistic terms. In communist and socialist states, the guiding educational motto is education for all through the state. In capitalistic states, education is a private enterprise guided by some regulatory legislation. The state does not take the responsibility of ensuring education for all. In India, where socialism is one of the guiding principles of statecraft, not only is free and compulsory education the responsibility of the state, but education at all levels is supervised by government agencies. Therefore, we can conclude that Indian educational practice is to some extent guided by the Marxian ideology of egalitarian society. To conclude, let us recollect all of the contributions made by Marx and Engels to sociological theory. Then you will notice that there were no direct theorizing on education by Marx and Engels. Their general social theory has been used by Marxists and neo-Marxists later on to develop their ideas on educational theory. Among the later interpreters of Marxism in relation to education, we have two classes of theories. One, the critical theorists, and the other, the critical thinkers of Frankfurt School. Among the critical theorists, C. Wright Mills uses Marx's ideas in developing his thesis on power elite, where he spoke on the influence of education and perpetuation of inequality in society. The theorists of Frankfurt School used Marxism to give a critique of culture in contemporary society. Thank you very much.